the nation. Now, Jubilee lawmakers in the National Assembly will this morning continue with the push to have the controversial amendment to the electoral laws passed at the third reading stage by midday before the bills are handed over to the Senate in the afternoon. Debate on the proposed laws went on without input from the opposition NASA. Yesterday, the opposition said it will not engage in a debate on a controversial amendment, arguing that the proposed changes were illegitimate and unconstitutional. Our senior parliamentary reporter, Patrick Amimo, now joins me live from our City Centre studio with more. Amimo, good morning, and maybe just give us a rundown of what happened yesterday and what we're expecting today. Patrick.
Good morning, Michael. Really, what happened yesterday in the afternoon, we saw the opposition side say they will not be able to attend the chambers when the debate on those controversial laws, that's the Election Amendment Bill 2017 and the Election Offences Amendment Bill 2017, when they were being debated on the floor of the House, and they really lived to their word. They did not attend that particular debate because, according their party had whipped their members not to attend, both in the National Assembly and the Senate. So we expect that trend to continue, and that matter then left only the Jubilee side of the divide to argue these particular proposals that have been crafted by their side. One of their own is the Baringo North Member of Parliament, William Cheptumo, who also happened to have chaired that committee that went through scrutinizing those particular amendments through the 3-day period that members of the public were given to deliberate on that particular, those particular changes they wanted to put in place. And we saw the chairperson table that particular report in the House. They said no major changes were to be done, except for that part of the chairperson qualification, where they did indicate that they'll have to retain that provision that the chairperson of IBC should at least be a lawyer. So that is the only provision that is that maybe they'll be looking at, because initially they'd wanted that particular provision, that office, to be held by any person, not necessarily a legal mind. So they looked at it after various provisions or maybe decisions from members of the public and institutions that appeared before them, and also IBC, which said that the chairperson should be a qualified lawyer and a person able to hold the position of a judge in the Supreme Court of Kenya, as currently held in the IBC Act. They did, I think, agree to that particular position. The other provisions remain as they are, and members went on board. They were very enthusiastic with those provisions, indicating that they are meant to cure the anomalies that had been identified by the Supreme Court ruling, which nullified the presidential election that were held on August 8th. So it has been an old affair. It was no opposition to the amendments. That's how the debate went in the House. Some took an advantage to hit at the waist to say that this particular legislation should not be introduced currently because it's mid the election cycle, and they said that any law, according to the international standards, then the laws should be introduced 1 year ahead of the election. And we saw that Ole Metito argued that according to him, the international standards only apply to accounts or audit queries, not the election law. So they went and really supported these particular amendments, and we expect this morning all these the two bills will be subjected to the committee of the whole House, where now at the committee stage we expect bills. That's where bills undergo major scrutiny and find a tooth comb detail to see whether there are any amendments that can be brought on the floor, and after, if there are any amendments, then members vote on those particular amendments. But in this particular case, I don't see any amendments being brought to the floor of the House during the committee stage, because, as I did indicate, it's a Jubilee-only affair. Were these proposals to have had an input from the opposition NASA, then we would have expected some amendments at this committee stage. But given that it's a Jubilee-only affair, I don't expect any amendments or major amendments at the committee stage, because it's a matter that was canvassed at the committee where Jubilee attended, and they did support the amendments in their entirety. So some of these amendments that we're looking at have to do with some provisions like especially the manual transmission of results, where that electronic system fails. And we saw IBC come on board and say in the area of manual transmission, they have the idea that instead of indicating manual. We'd rather have the returning and presiding officers come to the constituency level to present their Form 34As physical transmission. That's what IEBC had stressed. And that idea, the committee will be looking at it and see whether they can adopt it through the final legislation. The other issue also is to do with that composition of the IBC, and they brought on board in case the chairperson maybe is indisposed or is absent, then the vice chair can take over that particular role. So those are some of the changes that were brought on board. They're looking at the membership, the quorum being at 4, and in the composition of the IBC, the other area also that they are keen at is to do with the withdrawal of a candidate in case of a presidential election. That's as it's currently happened when we've seen NASA candidate pull out of this October 26th election. This particular Jubilee had anticipated this particular provision to put it in these particular laws, and it appears NASA was thought about it and decided to maybe pull a surprise before these particular laws are implemented or debated and passed in the House, because according to NASA, these are illegalities that are ongoing at the National Assembly, and they have said it is a mischief from their counterparts in the Jubilee side who want to use their numerical strength in both houses to rubber stamp and pass these particular laws, which according to them have not gotten enough input from both sides. They've not gotten that bipartisan approach. We saw the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, the Interreligious Council come on board and say, okay, some of the provisions could be good, but the timing is the problem. And they said the country currently is polarized, and it would have been better these particular amendments could be shelved so that Kenyans participate in the elections, and after the elections, then the country can undertake comprehensive reforms and or look at that particular election law, some of those gray areas that need sprucing up so that the country moves ahead as a united entity. Michael?
Thank you very much, Amimo. And just maybe on the sidelines, I guess you might have been there yesterday when there was an exchange of blows between One Jaguar and Babu Owino. And maybe just to give us an idea what really was going on, very briefly.
Thank you. That's something that caught most of the journalists at the media center unawares, because apparently Jaguar came from the restaurant side of Parliament. In fact, he came and jumped over. So there is before you get to the media center, there is some barrier, but he jumped over the barrier heading towards the media center. And when he got there, there are two rooms at the media center. So he peeped in one room, and apparently he was looking for Babu Owino, but Babu was not at that place. I think Babu had come to maybe book a slot for a media briefing. So he went to the side that we have the MRO's office, where ordinarily members of Parliament make their bookings for media briefings, and that's where now there was a fight. He pulled Babu Owino by the collar, and that's where now the exchange began. And he was in the company. Jaguar was in the company of Embakasi Central Member of Parliament. So they came and did attack. Babu was alone at that particular place, and he had to defend himself. And also there was an intervention from the media relations officers at Parliament, who came to intervene and to try to separate these lawmakers from engaging in a dishonorable act, because I think Parliament, this 12th Parliament, they came up with those code of conduct where members were to sign saying that they'll behave in a manner, they'll do the activities with decorum, engage in a manner that is honorable as members of Parliament. But then what happened was a bit of a shame. It does not really behove of an honorable title. It was a dishonor. It was to the members of the public who had to see that particular move. Even the Parliament orderlies were also, they came in the middle, were also caught unawares. After now they were told that, okay, there's some trouble at the media center involving members of Parliament. That's when they came to see what the trouble was, and all this was to do with this, the current stalemate where we now have this idea who supports Sue, because it appears Jaguar supports President Uhuru Kenyatta's candidature and Babu Owino supports Raila Odinga's candidature. So each was supporting their candidates, and they said, who is the president? So it is currently, as matters stand, without a substantive head of state who's been elected by Kenyans. That's why now we saw this particular an idea to flex their fists and at least exchange blows here and there, but then the parliament orderlies and the media relations officers were quick to intervene, and I think maybe we'll be waiting from the speaker to see how he will rule out of this particular matter and on the way forward, because I think it's something that requires some of these MPs who are engaged in this particular dishonorable act, they need to be punished for some time.
All right, thank you.
Michael.
Senior political basically giving us a rundown of what to expect today in Parliament and what happened yesterday. But of course, as we continue right here on KTN News, we will keep you posted. Thank you very much, Patrick Mimo.